Okay, good afternoon, folks. Um, Kirk, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to call the City Council workshop for June 4th, 2020 to order, please. Uh, Our city manager today will be doing the duties of the city clerk. So Kirk, would you take the roll?
Becken,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Leo,
She's muted.
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Trester,
Here.
Verplank.
Here.
Thank you. Everybody's here. Are there any agenda changes to be proposed? Hearing none, we'll move to the public comment item on agenda items only. If you wish to make a comment, please unmute yourself and give me a signal, a wave or something. Anybody wish to make a comment? Yes. You're muted, ma'am.
Unmute. How's that?
That's fine. Would you please say your name and where you reside?
Okay, I'm Jane Underwood, 130 Perryman Street, Saugatuck.
Hello, go ahead.
And I have some questions regarding walking on the beach, something I've been doing for, well, this will be my 75th summer on the beach, and I've been walking along there. I especially walked down to friends in Shorewood from Oval Beach. What's all this about?
Well, during the public comment period, we really don't answer questions, but I'm hoping that that question will be answered when we get to the agenda item today.
Well, can you explain what this is? It's, when I read it last night, I'm thinking the taxpayers have to pay to guard people's private property?
Well, let me reserve an answer to that to when we get to the agenda item, Ms. Underwood. We definitely are interested in that.
Okay.
Anyone else wish to make a comment? Denise Shipley, are you asking for the floor?
I am. Yes, please. I would like, when it's the appropriate time, to make public comment on also the same as Ms. Underwood.
Well, this would
I
be the
can wait
right,
till the appropriate time.
I'm sorry, this would be the right time for you to make your comment.
Okay, wonderful. I really have three things. One, in my opinion, the walkable water line has been blocked. The public is being forced to pass the high water mark because of the wall and the what's been the rocks currently that are in place. Two, the private property owners, in my opinion, should have planned for this, a better design, or they should require to hire privately. And three, I'm just wondering what becomes the city's liability if we are using Oval Beach personnel to, I don't know what they're asking for, to guard or protect property. I'm just wondering, say in comparison to the liability for having lifeguards currently, why we don't have lifeguards, assuming that's a liability, what becomes the city's liability also for guarding that property? That would be my question. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shipley. Again, I do believe we'll get to all those issues when we come to it on the agenda. Anyone else wish to make a comment?
I would.
Dave Swan.
Thank you. I think the request from June Grass is inappropriate and absurd. I believe that the seawall they've placed in the water is a very dangerous obstacle, and I am asking the city of Saugatuck to appeal the DEQ permit that it's actually an after the fact permit that June Grass requested. They did not ask for a permit beforehand. I would like to see the city contest that and ask the property owner, Dune Grass in the situation, then to move the.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Swan. Anyone else wish to make a comment? All right, hearing none. Jane, were you wanting to make a comment again? Okay, I think we'll move on. If anyone else wishes to make a comment, please unmute yourself and ask to be recognized.
As well as our economy.
Daniel DeFranco.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm permitted to make a comment. I live in the township, but I do work at Phil's Bar and Grill on Butler Street.
Uh-huh.
I did read the letter that Dunegrass had sent to the city of Saugatuck, and it was concerning just because last summer I had a lot of leisure time, and I never saw any of the activities that they were reporting. I'm not saying that they're not true, but I spent a lot of time on Oval Beach. I spent a lot of time on a boat, and I never once saw a boat docked onto their beach. I never saw pedestrians camped out in front of their beach. And I know that there is another private beach to the north of Oval Beach. And I don't really see many problems occurring there either. So I question, how serious of an issue it really is. And it also raises concerns for me because I do hear from a lot of tourists, especially over the summer at Phil's. And I do think it's a sensitive topic, creating a welcoming environment for tourists. And the idea of, someone patrolling that end of the beach kind of undermines the idea that the patrol is there for a safety purpose. And it becomes more of a kind of personal security and kind of almost intimidation. And I wonder what kind of signal that would send to tourists who are coming up and expecting a kind of welcoming, friendly environment. Yeah, so that's just kind of my primary concern. And also the fact that it doesn't change the law that says that pedestrians do have the right to walk below the high water mark. And it's almost kind of trying to undermine that right. And so I kind of question that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as Oval Beach employees providing some assistance over at Dune Grass, the same old story for me is we don't have a big staff. So it's more demands from a staff that's very bare bones. So we've got some real logistical concerns with that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Ms. Underwood, would you, I see you waving your hand. Would you unmute yourself?
Okay.
There.
Oval Beach is probably one of the most popular beaches in the country. We've been listed in numerous magazines, articles. And when you build next to a very popular place, I think you're going to have to expect there's going to be some people wandering around. That's probably the situation that we're going to have. And I'm thinking if this development wants to have their own security force, that's, I think, their responsibility. It's private property beyond the high water mark.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I can't see everybody on my screen here, so you need to unmute yourself and ask to be recognized if you want to make a comment.
This is Mike Kenny. I'm at Dune Grass. I'm on the board, and all the comments so far are regarding the first topic. So I recommend we go to the first topic.
Okay. Anyone else? And we will move to the first topic and discussion items, which is the proposed beach ordinance and patrol at Dune Grass. Kirk? Kirk, you want to lead this off, please?
Yes, I am working on the unmuting and video at the same time here. So the Dunegrass Association has been in contact with me and submitted this communication and wanted to have council review this. The city has met with the property owners out there, and Brett Ensfield, our sheriff's deputy that's oversees the operations here for law enforcement, also might be good to kind of jump in here and kind of just give an overview of what they've been doing at this point, and then we can kind of get into the meat of the request. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, maybe it might be appropriate to have Lieutenant Ensfield kind of just give an overview of what they've been doing up to this point.
That would be fine. Lieutenant Mansfield, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going? Typically, with these type of situations where individuals are trespassing on a private property, our patrols would be responsive, where a property owner would call us, and we would respond to a complaint of trespassing and deal it that way. We've had issues with proactive type patrols when we're on a piece of property and encounter individuals and stuff. So our typical way of operation, just for resources throughout the county, because this isn't the only area or request that we get of these types of patrols, is a responsive one to a criminal complaint. So that's pretty much what I have to say. The reserves obviously are working out there for alongside with the city employees on the busy weekends, and are out there patrolling and stuff and talking to individuals on that type of basis on the southern border / areas of there at times if there's a influx of people traveling and using the beach. But the high water has created a situation for beach space also. So.
All right, Kirk, anything else? And I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, you might want to, if it's appropriate, you might want to allow Mr. Kenny to kind of maybe address the council. That's really what I think the folks out there wanted to kind of get on a platform to at least discuss this with the council members. So it might be appropriate just to have him kind of maybe give their perspective, and then the council could jump into it.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to do that. So, Mr. Kenny, you want to go ahead?
Thank you. By the way, I just recently opened this memo. If you notice, it was dated February 26th. And last April, just some history as we tried to move forward with this, but the agenda was just too full. So this has kind of been out there at the board level for a year now. I will say there is one word in there I apologize for. It's incorrect. It's in the first paragraph. It's the word before beachgoers. It's kind of a laugh. It should be public is the word. Okay, so I think that hopefully that's the only spelling error or that I've noted. So from there, I do want to address some of the quick concerns. Since the memo was developed and also all the various preceding discussions, the retaining wall that's been referred to was exposed. That is on an individual's property. And since then, the MDEQ has requested that particular treatment. That is beyond the board. That's on an individual basis. I personally don't like it. I'm not for what I see. I have asked that they not fully go through with the MDEQ requirements or request or recommendation, sorry, which was another layer of boulders to be added. So luckily, the person that was installing those boulders convinced the homeowner to only do maybe 6 to 8 feet out instead of 15 feet out. But we did bring it to the attention of the homeowner that this is an eyesore and this will cause issues with the public. But this memo was developed prior to the high water coming this last fall and spring, and also exposing that retaining wall. and also causing issues. Believe me, I was an individual that was concerned, just as you are, regarding how the MDEQ was involved before and after. What this is about, this particular memo, is not about people walking along the beach. I enjoy walking along the beach myself with my wife and dogs on leash, but we're not trying to prohibit any of that type of enjoyment of the beach and the sand. I think what we're asking is that an ordinance be adopted to basically curb individuals declining not to read and obey the sign that's at the south end of Oval Beach, which says if you're going to walk beyond this point, it is only to walk, and it's to be below the water line. We'll just call it the water line for now. What we've seen is what I call people camping out, which is you could call squatting, but it's basically putting the towel down, putting the umbrella up, putting the cooler out as though they are on Oval Beach. And by the way, it's not just the people that are traveling south from Oval Beach. It's also boaters that have observed that there's, nice undeveloped land just south of Oval Beach. They rest their boats 50 to 75 feet offshore. They anchor them. They come in with their rafts and they do the same thing. They basically camp out on private property above the high water line. Now, that's the public beach, I think is well controlled. And, they basically say there's a certain capacity and for that beach, and people should be able to enjoy themselves on that beach. What seems to happen is people come south for various reasons. There's no alcohol allowed on that beach. There's no dogs allowed on that beach. People like to do other things that are not exactly on the public beach, but the public beach allows the parking. And what we're trying to do is curb what we call bad behavior. And then hopefully also inform people that don't understand. And that's what the sign was, Scott helped us put that sign together last year. And we think we were able to inform people that, hey, wait a minute, south of here, that's private, just stay north. And the same vice versa on the north side of Oval Beach, stay south of that sign. And so I think that probably addressed 60, 70% of the people that probably drifted south toward our beach. But we still had people that would basically come on the beach and park and basically abuse the private rights of others. And most notably, one particular individual that's about 100 feet south of the Oval Beach line. And so we're asking a couple things. One, that an ordinance be adopted. There is no actual ordinance with a penalty at this time. So the police can ask people to leave the beach, but if a person refuses, I guess it can go into various different types of ordinances, but there's no specific ordinance about trespassing and sitting on private beach at this time in the city of Saugatuck. So we're asking for something that has some substantial dollar amount, and talking with Kirk Carrier, a $250 amount that probably will be recognized as a penalty to people, and they'll say, maybe I should just stay on Oval Beach. The second thing is that the dune grass development is contributing to the tax base, not only for the state, but also the city. And we're estimating right now that $200,000 is being sent to the city for its purposes annually. And that will grow because not all of the development has been completed. So getting back to Scott Herbert's concern, well, I don't have the staff. Well, we're generating additional revenues. So those revenues should be directed to the city and supporting Scott and having additional staff so that he can service not only the Saugatuck, the Oval Beach, which is owned by the city of Saugatuck, but also the people south of the Oval Beach that are being encumbered on. We're paying our dues, and we're asking for that as a service. Lastly, I think in here, just one last comment, I think it's in here, or no, I think it's a separate item. We're asking that the use of drones not be launched from Oval Beach. What we're finding is they're becoming a nuisance in our area. They're usually launched from Oval Beach. Yes, we have a celebrity, and I'm sure he appreciates it if he doesn't have drones daily coming by and taking pictures inside his home. But that's not only just his house, other house, my house. And so we prefer that the city require that there be no drones launched from the beach. It's just, they're being used for ill intent. I hope I answered most of the questions. Again, I enjoy the beach. I enjoy walking the beach. And we encourage, if people want to, walk through on the beach side, we're not prohibiting them at all. I'm done.
Thank you. Let's open it up for a council discussion. Any questions or comments at this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is Garnet.
Go ahead.
So, Mike Kinney, I guess my questions, I'm going to redirect my questions back to a Supreme Court decision. I think it's called Gunderson versus the state. I think it was passed by the Supreme Court back in 2005, and then it came back up again in 2018. And basically, it's held that the portion of the shoreline is public trust for the benefit of its citizens, and private landowners along the lake cannot erect walls or other barriers that prevent people from walking along the shoreline. So while I certainly understand that trespassing onto private property is the issue, you did say this is not about beach walkers, but then you proceeded to say that it is about people who come and camp out on the beach, which is in the public trust, and they are allowed to do according to Supreme Court law. So I think, and also might I add that there are 870 plus registered voters who pay taxes here in the city of Saugatuck. And I think that they might take a little bit of offense and would certainly want to be remembered when issues arise regarding their concerns, to make sure that we are addressing those as well. So we are certainly trying as best we can to meet everyone's needs, but that we're doing the best we can. And so my request would be to revisit state law and see what your options are after that. That's it.
Okay.
May I respond to that?
Well, we're not going to get into a debate between council.
No. Your city attorney already commented on it.
We have not seen a response from the attorney, so therefore we have not seen a response.
I guess Kirk Carrier to share that response with you from last April, May.
Well, Kirk, I have a short memory here. Do you recall?
Well, back the original, when we talked about this last year, and the attorney reviewed a possible ordinance and made some comments in that. I sent that back to the attorney this week because I knew the council was going to discuss this and asked them to revisit that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that document back in time because of some of the issues they're having over in Grand Rapids, and they can't get to their offices. So you're correct. I do not have anything to give to the council at this point. I'm expecting to have something by Monday at the soonest. So it just was I couldn't get it to them because they can't get to their offices. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Council, anyone else?
Ken?
I have a question.
Hang on, Holly, I'll get you next, Mark.
Okay.
The sign that briefly came up on the screen, is that in place now? Is that gone? Or what's the status of that?
That sign was there. The Waves removed it here recently, and the Public Works Department has got a new sign made up. It's in progress. It should be installed back up there relatively soon. We did have a similar sign like this when the Presbyterian camp property, or when the Presbyterian church owned the property. We had a very similar sign to keep people, or let people know that going past there was private property, but they could traverse and walk on the shoreline.
Holly? Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, did you want to follow up on that?
We'll see. We're good for now.
All right, Holly?
I was wondering why the city would need to make an ordinance regarding trespassing. There's already a state law regarding trespassing, and once you post a no trespassing sign, I believe that that's enforceable by the Allegan County Sheriff. So it seems to me that we're talking about a private property issue and a law enforcement issue, and I'm not really sure the city needs to do more than they've already done outside of posting the sign.
Thanks. Okay. Chris, and then Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has come up a few times. I went out and actually looked at the property when the very first sign came up, and we felt that was a little too stringent. So we worked with the owners to come up with a more easier said sign that basically tells the same thing. I agree with the comments that have been made. There already is a trespassing law. If there are issues out there, they need to, as we all do, and we all pay taxes, they need to call the police. The police can come out and respond to that. But I do not support having our Oval Beach staff monitor the land for private homes.
Thanks. Barry, I'm sorry, Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I've been thinking about this, I was right on track with Holly on this. There are statutes, state statutes on trespassing, and but I also think about ordinances equal enforcement, which equal resources. And we simply don't have the resources to give a group of people a private patrol. If anybody has the money to hire a patrol, it's those 12 people on the lake. So I would not support having our people, whether it's the sheriff or staff, patrol that. And if there's a trespassing issue, I would rely on the state statutes, and they should pursue it that way.
Council, any other comments? I tend to agree here with what's been said. I think we've covered all of the objections to establishing some kind of special consideration for patrolling that beach. So it appears to be that this is something we need to pursue within the existing laws and make sure that they're enforced so the sign is appropriate. And I'm not sure any other action is necessary. Is that the consensus?
Can we, when we get the attorney's opinion, can we file that like the charter specifies, so that since this is a topic that comes up frequently, can we go ahead and have that on file that we can refer? Then in 6 months or 6 months past, that we can see exactly where the city resources have already been spent to look at that, and we can see what the legal work and the opinion is and what the case law is.
I'm sure we can. Kirk?
Yes, definitely. Again, I was hoping to have it on for today's meeting so that everyone would have it in front of them. I will definitely, if I receive it prior to the agenda packet going out tomorrow, I will include it in that. If not, I will email it out to the council members Monday, and it will be on file here at City Hall as well, so that everyone will have access to it.
All righty, Barry?
Yeah, I agree again with Holly on that, and thank you, Kirk. there's nothing in this, I believe, that would have attorney-client privilege because we're not in litigation and it's not about real estate purchases. So, it's a good transparent thing. We'll do it anyways, but, I agree with the procedure that Kirk's taking and Holly's suggestion.
Great.
Well,
Okay.
we don't do it now, but we're supposed to be doing it.
All right, Kirk, you weren't suggesting this be on the agenda for the meeting on Monday, were you?
No, it would not be an action item. I just want to get the information to the council after the attorney has reviewed it once again, and from there, the council can decide what you'd like to do with it, if
So
anything.
it would be on as a communication.
Correct, would not be an action item, it would be a communication.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other comments, questions on this?
Well, I'd just like to say, in closing, the attorney did visit this matter and basically indicated that people pausing for a longer period of time than just resting is considered. Lastly, the board is moving forward. The member, I don't live on the water, but the board has moved forward and is going to have private security in place on busy weekends. So I just want the city to be aware of that. And Waveland is the name of the management company, and they'll be coordinating in fact, they've already introduced themselves to the police so that the private guard will be working with the city.
I certainly think that's appropriate. Thanks. All right, then let's move along to pop-up patio permit progress. Pop-up patio permit progress. Kirk, you want to lead, or Cindy, do you want to lead off? I guess Cindy, you're.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had a lot of interest in the pop-up patios. In fact, to date, I have issued 7 pop-up patio permits. And those are for Wally's, Bodie's. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wally's, Bodie's, Lucy's, Uncommon Grounds, Tree of Life, Wicks, and 236 Coast, or Coast 236.
Right. All right, well, Chris, maybe you'd want to comment on a meeting that we had the other day that was pretty constructive regarding the Culver Street merchants.
Thank you. It was a excellent meeting. Thank Councilmember Verplank for setting it up for the people on Culver Street. There had been concerns that it was too narrow to allow the restaurants, the sit-down restaurants there, to have their pop-up patios. But we all walked it and we all discussed it. And I think everybody came to the conclusion that this is a different time. We have to try things. Our restaurants are losing 50% of their clientele right off the bat. And that's going to be based on their square footage. So the more square footage that as a city we can give them, the better that will be. So there will be several places there. Cindy's already got the applications for that. In order to make up for that parking, suggestions were made about different streets where we can maybe repaint specifically where the duck was at. That's not being used. We could maybe make parking there. On the corner, right there on Culver and Griffith, there are 2 parallel places, or possibly 3, that could be made into diagonal. We also discussed that there are other places in town where we could maybe pick up some extra parking. They wanted to have signage that showed parking heading up to the hill. We were all very excited. We were all very excited about the getting together and working with the CVB, working with the interurban, so that we can make up the funds that the CVB is not going to put into the rides, and looking at different places where we can have drop off and pick up, so that when people drop off, they're able to then walk on through the community and see the different places. Jane, do you have anything else on that?
Jane.
Thank you. It was a great meeting. I walked away feeling like we had accomplished a great deal. Some of the things that were brought up were delivery trucks and possibly making arrangements to take deliveries in the rear of the properties instead of in front of the properties. I know the delivery truck that parks right next to the light on the corner of Butler and Culver holds up traffic a lot. And who wants to sit next to a truck full of fumes anyway? So we talked about that and possibly taking those trucks to the back of the building instead of the front. There's some work that would have to be done with the bank, with their fence. But all in all, it was a really, really good, positive meeting. I felt we really had accomplished something with that particular street. It'll slow down traffic a little bit. Hopefully it won't hold up traffic bit. We talked about revisiting this project again, just to make sure everything was working and to work the bugs out of it. So that's kind of up to Cindy, but we'll be as much help as Cindy needs. And I just felt it was a great meeting, very positive. Thank you.
I agree. The spirit of cooperation was just great. Here are restaurant owners who compete with each other saying that they would do anything to help, because if you help one restaurant, you're helping your neighbor's restaurant. And I thought that was really good. So any other comment on this?
I just have a couple of comments.
Okay, and then Barry.
We have been working out the bugs. It's not exactly as it was presented to City Council, because you did give me some administrative authority. The pop-ups will stay in place overnight. They will be either lighted or have sufficient reflective tape to alert vehicles that there's something out there that you don't want to run over with your car. But we talked about hours of operation, and it just would not be practical if your restaurant is open past 10 o'clock to at 10 o'clock come out and say, okay, everybody off, get all your staff to collect all the materials and bring them inside. It just wouldn't be practical. So what I have talked about with the restaurants as they came in to file their applications, that they need to put signs out that 11 o'clock is quiet time and to be respectful of your neighbors. If that helps, we'll have to see. If it doesn't, I told all of them, this is a trial period. We don't know how this is gonna work. If somebody at Wally's sends 2 kids out in the street and they get hit by a car and killed, everybody's license is going away. If it's not safe, then it's not going to work. And they were all enthusiastically in agreement with that. So we'll keep working on it, tweaking it so it fits what they need and document everything.
Well, thanks, Cindy. Barry? Your mute is still on, sir.
Sorry.
Now you're good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our past discussions, I remember Lieutenant Ensfield giving us a rundown on some of the streets that are busier that might cause problems not only for congestion, but for emergency vehicles during peak hours. And maybe he can revisit that again. I mean, I'm in favor of the whole concept, but it's that, and it's also our liability. If somebody does get hurt on a pop-up patio that's in the street, what is the city's liability? And I don't remember if Cindy has required them to make us additional insured.
Yes, they all have a certificate of insurance naming the city as additional insured. Okay, and so that was reviewed by our insurance company and they're good with it. They don't have a concern.
Okay, that answers that question. Thank you, Cindy. But I wouldn't mind hearing Lieutenant Ensfield's retake on certain streets that may be problematic.
Sure. Brett, would you like to comment?
Lieutenant Ensfield's not on the call any longer, but I'll reach out to him and he could get some information for you.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Mayor?
Cindy had a comment, then Chris.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the pop-up patio will not take up any more street access than a parked vehicle. So
Okay.
it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, it would be a wash. I mean, those streets are full of parked cars all the time. So I don't think there's any traffic issues involved other than the normal traffic slowdowns we have during the tourist season. Chris?
Also the discussion, Jane is on the fire board and the fire chief has been looking at this very, very closely. And the whole idea is that these barriers that have to be approved by Cindy are movable. Again, we're not sticking any further out in the street, but he's looking at all the barriers too to make sure that the trucks can get through easily if stuff has to be moved. Jane, do you have anything else on that?
Yes, I've discussed this with Greg quite a lot, and things have to be movable in case we have to get close to a building. He's really on board with trying this. He's really excited about the city doing something different and helping out these restaurants, but he wants it to be safe. And yeah, so if you have questions, or if you have questions, Cindy, don't hesitate to ask Greg. He'll be as helpful as he can possibly be. Thank you.
Thanks. Holly?
I have sort of an ancillary question, and that is, do we have any direction on running the bus? Do we have any direction from the Allegan County Health Department or the CDC regarding, I mean, I know there are buses running in other cities, but I'm just wondering under COVID, it sort of what, if there's a worksheet or a directive? Maybe that's a Kurt question.
Well, that's a good question, and I've been reaching out to the Allegan County Health Department for just about everything on this. I talked to the director at the Interurban, and currently at this time they were limiting the number of people that could be on that bus. What the health department is recommending right now is if people can't maintain a 6-foot distance, that definitely masks are required. But I will reach out to them specifically if they have any advice on the operation such as the Interurban. I believe the administrator out there probably has done the same thing, but I'll follow up with both of them and get you an answer, because I think that's a real valid concern. I had concerns about that as well. If people would even want to get on a kind of a packed bus is one thing, but if we encourage them to, is that really what we should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some talk about moving the bus to go to Douglas and Hayworth, and I absolutely love that idea. But I do have a sort of a city safety concern, and I just want to make sure that we are following whatever guidelines are available. So thanks for following up.
Good point.
Ken?
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I guess this question's kind of geared towards Scott. With the fact that the pop-ups are going to be semi-permanent, what kind of problems does that cause you from street cleaning? And has it been addressed with the property owners?
Yeah, I had a good conversation with Cindy today about that, and I think as long as I think Cindy's well on top of it. My concerns were, we won't be able to street sweep properly with these pop-up patios in place, which will add more debris into our fragile storm drain system. But Cindy is requiring the business owners to sweep the areas daily, and we'll just simply go around it with a street sweeper. The other concern that I brought up to Cindy that she's communicating as people come in to apply for these permits is that we need to get access to the city street, the trash cans that are in these areas. Hopefully they can fence around them, and so we can still get as close as possible to them with the pickup trucks to get them emptied.
Jane.
But it's also part of their permit that they have their own trash and take care of their own trash. I realize you have to get to our trash cans, but our trash cans cannot become their trash cans. They have to provide their own trash service for these patios.
One other comment, Ken?
Yep.
And maybe this has been, maybe not, either maybe Cindy or Kirk can reach out to Daryl at Cal Lake, bringing them up to speed with what's going on. If there are a majority of the water services throughout the community are in these areas, both underground and leads going into the respective businesses. So I think and when they need to act, if there's a water leak, it's going to have to be on an emergency basis. So that needs to be, I think, explained, and Scott might have a comment on that too, it looks like, but just bringing it up.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. That's a good point. We do still have to comply with the MISTIG laws. So we get MISTIG requests daily. So if there's a storm drain within these pop-up patios, we're going to have to get in there and fulfill the MISTIG request by marking the storm drain lines. So that might be a little awkward, but we'll do our best.
Okay, this is Garn. I have a question. What is that acronym? MISTIC? What is that?
That's MISDIG. It's public.
Oh, MISDIG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I misheard
Got it.
I was saying Mystic. Mystic
yeah.
Farm Series.
Ken, if I can elaborate a little bit more on that, because Cal Lake does a vast majority of the MISTIG markings in the community, or a fair amount of them at least. And this can be just for someone who is doing, it can be any type of work on their structure. The gas line needs to be be marked, underground utilities of all type. So there may be a need to get right in those things. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And maybe, again, that's, I think, part of the communication. If it can be done in the morning, if there's adequate lead time before they open, if they need to move their, the property, the tables, the barriers around, I think that would work out. It just needs some communication. And that's why I mentioned it to Cindy and Kirk and Scott. Thank you.
Good. Anything else on this? All right, good discussion. Cindy, thank you for moving forward on this. I know you've done a lot of work on it, and our people appreciate it in town. I know that.
Mhm.
Next item is additional downtown parking solutions request. Kirk?
Yeah, the city's received some requests, and I think Councilmember Peterson mentioned this in some of her comments here a little while ago. We did receive a request to possibly alter some of the spaces at the intersection of Culver and Griffith Street, and we have the city engineer looking at that area to see if parallel parking could be converted to diagonal parking. So we'll get an answer from our engineers here pretty soon to see if that's doable. If it is, that's obviously stuff we can do in-house relatively easy. We did have a request regarding the area where the Harbor Duck operates. And currently right now we have a 2-hour parking sign there, but it is hashed out so that it does look like no parking. The difficulty with this situation here is that there is a commercial tour permit ordinance in place, which identifies that area as a specific area that anyone that holds a commercial tour permit license can utilize. And right now we have one business that has a permit that's valid through the end of this year. I've reached out to that business to find out if they would be operating or not, and I have not heard back from them. I've heard that they're not going to be operating, but again, I have not heard anything official, so I can't comment and say that that's the case or not. Again, right now, we do allow people to park there. It says 2-hour parking limit, but it's hashed out yellow and it looks like no parking. So if we were to go in there and remove those stripes, number one, we have to make sure that the person that has the valid permit isn't going to use it, and make sure that, or I guess we might want to change the ordinance and so someone else doesn't apply, because that's part of the commercial tour permit ordinance.
All right, I just have a question for Scott. From an aesthetic standpoint, can you really paint out yellow lines and make it look like normal? I mean, I've had experience with that and you can't really do it.
Not for a long period of time. We've done it in the Culver Street parking lot when we did some reconfiguration there. I think the Uniform Traffic Control Manual says that they'd have to be painted black to make them officially canceled out. So they'd be visible, but they'd be black, and then you just paint the white where they need to be. It would look a little goofy.
It would look goofy. Okay, so I guess, Kirk, we're going to await the outcome of your questions to the person who holds a permit there.
Yes, that's what I'm researching right now. If I get an answer from that individual, if they are not going to operate, um, and they don't suspect that they're going to be operating in the future, the council may want to revisit that area and just convert it back to regular parking if you're not going to have a commercial tour permit ordinance in place any longer.
Okay,
And
Mark.
yeah, just kind of going back to when we redid that area, Mason Street. I think several of my fellow council people were on those discussions. Part of the way we carved out that the parking was, one, to accommodate the tour buses, but also to have a loading area, drop off of tour buses. So that could be for deliveries. I think if we mark it, that could be 15-minute pickup parking in that area. You can get about 3 parking spaces in that area, I believe. Last year, I know we just changed it to be regular parking, but I would hate to convert it to regular parking when it can serve so many other purposes that we don't have in other parts of town. And another comment regarding operation of the duck and his agreement, I do think we have an escape clause in there also. So if we don't have a good reply or a good rapport or a feeling for them, with summer coming, we might have to enforce doing that. I don't like to do it. Any reasonable person would respond. But I guess you're catching where I'm going with that, Kurt.
Yes.
Okay, anything else on this? Then we'll move along to the Governor's Executive Order 110. Cindy, let's see. This is Cindy's thing?
Well, no, I'm sorry. I left Cindy's name on there when I created the agenda.
Okay.
So the Executive Order 110, as you know, rescinded the stay-at-home order that was currently in place with some stipulations. The retail businesses are allowed to open today, Thursday. The bars and restaurants will be allowed to open Monday with some seating restrictions. One of the issues in there was we closed the Mount Bald stairway down back when this original order went into place. And the reason we did that is we were not able to maintain a good 6-foot social distancing requirement there. I reached out to the Elgin County Health Department and got some advice from them. They suggested if you can't control it, to close it down. So when we had the new order, this Order 110 came into place, I reached out to them again and asked them if they had any advice. Because obviously nothing has changed in terms of we can't make the stairs any wider. And what they recommended that you could open them, but we should post a sign that says advising people that the area is not disinfected, and also to encourage people to wear a mask, because there isn't really anything that gives us the ability to tell people to not use the stairway. So this was put on last night before I heard back from the Elgin County Health Department, and we have reopened the stairway with the proper signage to inform the public of the safety issues, and hopefully people will use good judgment. If we start getting reports there's major problems, we obviously can evaluate that administratively, but hopefully we haven't had problems at the beach right now, and hopefully people will use safe protocol when they're using the stairs. So this issue really was, I thought we were going to have a lot more discussion about this, based on the health department's regulations, we're not going to. The other thing I want to say though is that the ability to have these electronic meetings is going to end on June 30th currently, unless the executive order for that is extended. I don't have any indication that it's going to be extended. So I'm working right now to get processes in place so we can still continue to do live streaming at City Hall, as well as possibly allowing, if some council members are not comfortable participating in the meeting, or if someone's sick, they would still be able to participate at City Hall during the meeting. So I've been working pretty aggressively on getting those things in place with a lot of other things. So if people can bear with me on some of the other maybe minor issues, but I want to get that implemented. The other issue is that well, here, let me put it this way. I'm going to remove the council chamber desk temporarily and put in some smaller temporary movable desks so that we can social distance. Now, again, I say I'm going to do that. If council was ultimately opposed to that and said, absolutely not, I will respect your wishes. But I think it's really going to be best if we can have some smaller movable desks that we can space people out to make that facility as safe and comfortable as possible when we have to go back in here in a few weeks and have council meetings. So the desk isn't going to be destroyed or anything like that, but we're going to remove it out of City Hall and get some temporary seating arrangements so it's a little bit more appropriate for council meetings. If anybody has any questions on that, I'd be happy to address them.
Could you just elaborate a little bit on what kind of capacity you think we'd have for the public to be in there during a council meeting?
Well, I think it's going to be drastically reduced because, and that's why I'm really working to get the live streaming process in place so that I think most people, at least from what I'm hearing, really like the ability to view the council meetings and participate if they can in the comfort of their home. Obviously, we have more people attending the meetings probably during this period than I think we probably had combined in the history of since we started doing meetings. So I think if we can get that so people can still log on and view the meetings as they're happening live, I think that would probably reduce quite a bit of the public attending the meeting at City Hall, because we are going to have a limit. We can't have the capacity, the way the chair is set up right now. We'll have to space those out 6 feet apart for the public to set. And I would imagine I haven't went up there and configured that yet, but when I do, it's going to be drastically reduced. So I want to make sure that we have the ability, if by chance we had more people attend the council meeting than we had ability for them to seat, they would be able to participate in a format such as this.
Okay,
Hey, Mr. Mayor, this is Garnett. I've got a question for Kirk.
go ahead.
Kirk, I'm curious what direction the MML is providing for us in this regard. I mean, I'm sure that all municipalities are going to face the same issue and have the same concerns. So I'm curious what directive they might be providing.
At this point, I don't have anything from them. In terms of, are you thinking with the governor's executive order extending the meetings, or just what other communities are going to be doing in terms of capacity and things of that nature?
Well, I mean both, really. I mean, obviously, we all know that it's going to come to an end at the end of June. I'm curious. The MML tends to be a little legislatively in front of these things. I'm curious what discussions they've had with the governor's office on just keeping this executive order in place so that meetings can continue to happen.
I'll find
remotely.
out. Yep, I think that's, and I was hoping that the legislators would put something in place where maybe change the Open Meetings Act so this was a tool that municipalities could use in the future, not mandate that they use it. But in our case, it sure would be nice to have it, because the other issue too, I've been talking to the health professionals, and the reality of having a second spike right around flu season is probably going to happen. So what I want to do, and I know those things, I want to plan and prepare so that when it does happen, we're completely set up and operational so that we don't miss a beat on any of this stuff. So that's really, I hope that's not the case, but I'm going to plan for the worst and make sure that we continue we can have meetings, the public can participate, and we can continue with the work. So I'll reach out to the MML and find out if they are, if they have any wind of any kind of legislative issues with that, extending that.
Okay.
Great.
I've communicated with Mary Whiteford several times on this issue, and she's been kind of equivocal in terms of whether they would support that or not. I think the rest of us should feel free to contact our people in Lansing and tell them how important this thing is. Barry? Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I got a cat meowing back here. I don't want that on. But curious, Kirk, with the redo on the council chambers, will the public still be able to comment during public comments?
That's what I'm working on right now. We just worked with our phone system company to change over our City Hall phone system to a cloud-based system. And there's components of that allows for the streaming of the meetings. I'm reaching out to the Elgin County Board of Commissioners, not the Board of Commissioners, but the Elgin County Administrator. The Board of Commissioners just implemented live streaming capabilities for their meetings. So I'm going to find out exactly what they used. And one of the key things is what I ultimately envision is having the ability where we have some screens so that when someone is speaking, the council will be able to see them. But I want to have it where someone can call in and during public comment and make comment. In a pinch, what we could do, obviously, is prior to the meeting, we would have the number where someone would call, and they would call that number and they'd go into a queue. We would unmute them and they could make a public comment. Again, public comment portion, as the mayor has pointed out many times, is really just the ability for the public to make a comment. It's not a, it's a time where we debate or answer questions, but that way we would reserve that ability so the public would be able to have access to their elected officials, make a comment, and it would be on the record. So if I can't have the public comment as part of the meeting, that's going to be a problem. So I've got things in the works where we'll make sure in a pinch, we'll still be able to make that happen.
Thank you, Kirk. Again, it's one of the luxuries, I guess, of this terrible time is that we got 29 people watching right now, and during the comment time, any of those people can have their 3 minutes, and it's kind of worked out good.
Correct. But I'm really working aggressively on this. I want to get this in place, and so when the 30th happens, if it doesn't get extended or we have the ability to do that, I want to make sure that it's safe for the council members and for the public to attend, but also really increase access. And I guess if you can say, if anything good has come out of this, is that a lot of governments now are operating in this manner, and people can attend and participate in their local unit of government much better. So I really am excited about moving city into that new frontier.
Very well. Anything else on this? Now we'll move to public comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to make a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes. The way to do it is to unmute yourself and ask for the floor. If you're calling in by phone, you need to hit *6, and that will unmute you and give you the ability to speak. Anyone wish to make a comment? Okay, I'm hearing none. Kirk, are you seeing any flags here?
Well, Dan Fox has raised his hand, so I will, he's unmuted. So if you want to recognize him.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry, I didn't see, I'm not looking at your
That's all right, I understand.
box here.
As I was listening to you guys talk about the Zoom meetings and public comment and what have you, I wonder if it might make sense to think about potentially either for short-term or even longer term, seeing if the, what is it they call it? I think the media room at the school would be available. It is a very large room, which would allow for distancing. And it's already set up, I think, because the Board of Education meets there with the, whatever requisite recording items and what have you. And it's obviously a community resource. I think there is something, I get the convenience and what have you of Zoom. I do think there is something to be said for having elected officials see the faces of their electorate when they're sitting in the audience in front of them in person, as opposed to on a screen. I think, that's why all the state legislatures and the rest of them, one of the reasons I expect that they meet in person in public. So maybe the school could be a solution. It's also, that room is, I'm almost certain, other than school board meetings, is probably not in use at the times you guys normally meet. So that's it. Thank you.
That's a good suggestion, Dan. Anyone else wish to make a comment?
Hi, yes, Denise Shipley.
Go ahead.
If I may.
Yes.
I just have a question. Is there a possibility of an online commenting forum for public comments?
Kirk, do you have any insight on that?
Well, in terms of during the meeting, during the public comment session, some municipalities have used the chat function where someone would send that in and then a staff member would read that comment. So there's multiple options. The one thing of we have to make sure is that we have to make it easy and accessible for everyone. You know, it's, if someone doesn't have a computer, obviously, or an internet, it'd be difficult for them to make comment. That's why using some type of phone system, I usually like to have about 3 or 4 different options so that we make sure we cover everyone. So I definitely think that would be an option that we could utilize.
Thank you.
All right. I see no other hands up. Kirk, do you? Then let's move to council comments. Let me see here. Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Michigan Municipal League had a webinar today with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, which I listened in on, although I missed the first 10 minutes of it because I was on another call. But one of the burning questions we've had from our bars and restaurants is, will they be able to serve liquor in their potentially added pop-up patios, et cetera? And as Cindy has said all along, that's really not up to the city. It's up to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. And what the net on that meeting was, is there's a Form 204 that any bar or restaurant that wants to serve outside has to get that permit. And that's been forever. So the only thing after an hour that really changed is that they've made it a priority to process those permits. So again, serving out on the extended space can only be things that the restaurant or bar sell. Can't pick it up at a party store and bring it to sit at Wally's table. And you got to get that permit. And I know Sydney's on top of that, but after sitting through an hour, nothing changed on that. So, so that's that. And I could do the other things off. Don't sell the desk, Kurt. I got an idea.
Okay. Cindy, did you have a comment?
Yes, I sat through that webinar as well. And what they've really done is focus their staff on processing those applications to get them expedited. And there is no fee and there's no inspection fee. And there's actually 2 kinds of permits they can get. They can get the 204, which is what they use now for our like sidewalk cafes, or you can get the 204A, which is the temporary permit that will expire on October 31st. But they're turning those around in about 5 to 7 days.
Good. Okay. Holly, would you make a comment?
No, I would just like to say how much the Zoom format has been great. I think we've all enjoyed the increased attendance, and obviously sitting on the deck having a meeting is a great is a great thing. I really just want to enforce what Garn said. The MML is our municipal lobbying arm, and we don't need to do this in a vacuum or recreate the wheel. I'm sure that there's going to be some standards there, and also in addition to contacting our elected officials, as Ken said, we can also let the MML know that we like this Zoom format. And I mean, while there's a pandemic, I like it. So that's what I would say. And I just want to thank Cindy and the businesses who have stepped forward, and everyone's flexibility as we open back up in a trying time. So that's
Thanks,
it.
Holly. Garn?
Oh, sorry about that. I got to unmute myself. I'm going to follow up on that. So I've really enjoyed the Zoom meetings, primarily from the fact that so many people can attend. I mean, today we had as many as 37 people on the call. I think last week for the special workshop, we had 40, 45, 47, and we would never be able to pack that number of people, either with social distancing rules of 6 feet, either in our city hall or at the media center at the school. There are not many places where we'd be able to do that. Also from a personal perspective, I'm trying to be very, very careful, not necessarily for myself, but for my father, who is now here. And Pop is going to be 83 this year. And so I'm trying to be very careful that I don't do anything to endanger him until until we have the appropriate response, a shot of some kind. So I'll be really hesitant to be in close quarters with anybody, quite frankly. On another note, I'll summarize all this in a note to you, Kirk, and copy everybody. I've brought it up before. I've gotten some requests, concerns, questions about the purchase of cemetery plots. I've also gotten kind of in line with Ken's note about the invasive weeds in Cow Lake. I've gotten a request about doing something, getting some help with the Peterson Preserve and the water levels there. And then I also have gotten a request recently regarding where we might be going with the 5G. And I know Cindy's been working with that pretty closely. And then lastly, the recycling committee is ready to go to meet with the Republic rep. So we're ready to go. We have the questions for that individual. So I'll put that in the form of a note to you, Kirk, and copy all of council. And if we could move on those, that would be great. Thank you.
Chris?
That's it.
Chris?
Yep, just had to unmute myself. I think that I enjoy the Zoom just as much as everybody. One of the things that we've always heard is we have trouble communicating with our constituents. And people will say, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't hear about that. So for me, the face-to-face, as Dan Fox said, is wonderful. But to have 30-some people on the site listening to you, I mean, tonight, more people heard about the issue along the beach. They heard about the downtown pop-ups. I just think that is huge. And if we can keep it going, that would be great. I have a couple of shout outs. First to Cindy. Folks, she is moving this along. She's just been great. And then Christine at Wix, because she kind of started the whole ball rolling. And then I can't ever say enough about Elizabeth Estes and the group that she has worked with that just keeps it moving. And it's a new landscape. We're all learning. We might make mistakes, but let's just keep moving forward.
Thanks. Jane?
Well, I just want to I want to thank everybody on Culver Street for showing up for the meeting and being very positive. And I think we made a lot of progress, and I'm good. Thanks.
Mark?
I'm all set, Ken. Thank you.
Okay. I would just further encourage our consideration of the issue that Garnet raised, which is weeds. As we look out our window here, the lake is coming along very nicely and turning green from brown. And I think we're going to have a worse problem than we had last year if we don't start getting on top of this. So I'm going to push for that as well. Kurt, we didn't go over the agenda for the regular council meeting. Do you have items for that?
Yes, we have a introduction of ordinances. The Planning Commission had a meeting recently and is recommending an ordinance change. And Cindy, do you want to just give council just a quick update on that so they know what to expect when they see that Monday? Oh, you're muted.
That was about offices opening in the commercial zone districts. We've had some current issues with that, and another request for an office on Water Street. That would be an engineering office. And Planning Commission felt pretty strongly that we really should not allow offices in our downtown. They're not appropriate with retail and restaurants and other social type of things that go on downtown.
Kirk and others?
Yep. No, yeah, so that'll be on just as an introduction ordinance. It's not, there's the only action that the council would take if you want to proceed moving that ordinance forward is you'd make a motion to put it on the next regular agenda for an action. The only other action item will be the city's manager's appointment of an interim clerk, which I'm recommending Cindy Osmond to fill in that role temporarily. We'll be advertising for the position, but we do need to keep things moving, specifically with the election related material. The other stuff, minutes and things like that, can be dispersed out to other staff members. Cindy has experience when she worked in Holland with elections. She's already been, for the last 2 weeks, I had her work with Ms. Nagel to get up to speed on things. She's already done some online training, and we've also reached out to another local clerk who lives in the area that's retired that is going to assist too. So obviously, as the city manager, my job is to make sure that all things keep functioning, and that's what we're doing. So I'll be making that recommendation to city council on Monday, so we have an interim clerk in place.
Mr. Mayor,
Chris?
just going back to the algae in the lake, we spent a lot of time on this last year, and I know that things have been crazy with the pandemic and flooding and everything, but I think we put a lot of time and effort into it, but we need to get it back on the agenda. Is it too late for Monday night if we wanted to move forward with any of the recommendations and give you administrative approval to do that? Because it's past Wednesday.
Yeah, I think with the light agenda that we have, Kirk, I'd encourage us to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll try to get, I don't really know if there's anything you really need to take action on, but,
Well, there was a contract. We had a group that we're going to do a contract with, and I believe it was a 3-year phase, if I'm remembering correctly, but we needed to move forward on it. And last time it got too late, by the end of the year, we couldn't.
So here's the difficulties that we're running into. The first thing is that what I've been told by the contractors is, if we do an application, it's gonna have a very short lifespan. Probably, they said maybe you'd get a month or maybe 2 months out of it. The other issue is we have to get, if we're gonna do it without a special assessment district, we're gonna have to get all the property owners to sign off on that, because it isn't our property. The water's owned by the state of Michigan and the land's owned by the property owners. If one property owner doesn't sign that, the whole thing stops. To do it, the best way to do this is to have a special assessment district so that you have funding for it, and then you have a process, because this is going to take, you're going to have to be doing treatments for a very long time, because if you just do 1 or 2 treatments, it's not going to solve any problem. It's probably actually going to just come back stronger. That's the stuff that when we started researching that, that's what the professionals told us. So even if you want to take action and say, okay, Kurt, go out and hire a firm and go out and do an application, I don't, well, let me put it this way, there's going to be some major hurdles in the sense that I don't think you're going to get the results that you want, because you're going to need to do more applications. And the other issue is we're going to still have to get all those property owners to give permission.
I understand, but I believe that was part of the proposal that they gave us, was that they would go contact all the property owners, then they would do the applications as needed, even every other month. And I think they gave us a cost. So can we just find out if things have changed and we can't go?
No, sure, I can. If nothing else, put it on the agenda so it can bring everybody up to speed on where we are with that.
Definitely.
If we neglect this problem, it's only going to get worse, and
sure.
We'll not be happy in August, believe me.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
I think we went through everybody. Barry, you have a word?
As far as moving swiftly ahead on the issue with the weeds, I feel a lot of things juggling in the air there. Special assessment, how are we going to pay for it? Yes, we need to take care of the weeds. Are we ready to make that an action item on Monday?
Well, Chris, what was your thought? I mean, I wasn't envisioning it as an action item. We could, but I just think we need to bring everybody up to speed and get a sense of how we want to move forward with this thing.
Exactly. We've been at this position like 3 different times, and we never take it to the next step. So I think we can get the information, even if it's just a follow up with that group that gave us the proposal, and then talk about it at Monday, and then move forward if we all agree to move forward, so that we can get a vote on it. Not if we can't vote on Monday, because I know it's past the Wednesday deadline, but even at the next workshop.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of where I was going, is that's really a workshop item. If we put it on the agenda for a business meeting, people are kind of looking for action, and I don't think we're ready yet. But we can.
Look, if we wait for the next workshop, then we have to wait for the next council meeting to do something. Then we have to wait to engage a contractor if we decide to go ahead. And now it's the end of July. So I think we've got to decide.
Workshop could be 18 hours. 18 hours.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that, but this has happened to us 3 different times. Then it gets too late. We don't do it. So we really need to move forward on it.
I agree.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Okay, good question. All right, I think that's everybody's comment. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Chris.
I move we adjourn.
Moved by-
Second,
Second by, I didn't catch it. Was that Gar?
Garnet, yeah.
Okay. We adjourn. This is a roll call vote.
Peterson,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Becken,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Trester,
Yes.
Verplank.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everybody attending this meeting from the public. We sure appreciate your interest in things. And it's a good meeting tonight. And so we're adjourned.
Okay.